the show where we break down the big ideas to give you an edge.
And today we're tackling a monster of a book, one that really rewired a whole generation's thinking on money.
Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, this thing is more than just a book, isn't it? It's kind of a counter manifesto.
It absolutely is. I mean, if you grew up with that traditional advice, go to school, get good grades, find a safe job, buy a house.
The standard playbook.
Right. Kiyosaki just throws a massive wrench into that whole system. His premise challenges, decades of conventional wisdom in a way that very few finance books ever have.
Okay, so let's get right into the hook because it's the core of everything. The tale of the two dads. The entire framework is built on the completely contradictory advice he got from two father figures. First, you have his biological dad, the poor dad.
Highly educated man.
Yeah.
A PhD, advanced degrees from places like Stanford and Northwestern.
Yeah.
A very smart guy.
But he was always struggling with money. Always, just one raise away from getting ahead. Always trapped by bills.
And then you have the rich dad. This was his best friend Mike's father. And the twist is he was a high school dropout.
Which is just wild when you think about it.
Yeah, but despite not having that formal education, he became one of the richest men in Hawaii. He built this empire that, and this is key, functioned without him needing to be there all the time.
So it wasn't just about the money in the bank. It was about two totally different ways of seeing the world, especially money and security.
And the advice they gave was, night and day.
Poor dad, the educated one, was all about safety. He'd say things like, when it comes to money, play it safe, don't take risks.
Go work for the government, get a good corporate job with benefits. That was the peak of success for him.
Then rich dad, the dropout, says the complete opposite. He's like, learn to manage risk. The key isn't avoiding it, it's understanding it.
And that leads us to the single most controversial line in the entire book. The one that just, pokes a stick right at the heart of the American dream.
Here we go.
Poor dad would always say, our home is our largest investment and our greatest asset.
Which is what we're all told.
It was what everyone is told.
Right.
And rich dad just flatly says, my house is a liability, and if your house is your largest investment, you're in trouble.
And that one phrase, your home is a liability, that just stops people in their tracks. It changes the entire conversation.
It really does.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to cut through all the noise and guide you through the 6 core lessons Kiyosaki learned over 30 years.
This is basically the stuff the rich teach their kids about money that, the poor and middle class just don't.
And hopefully it'll give you a shortcut to understanding that framework and maybe, shifting your own perspective on your financial future. Okay, let's dive right into lesson 1. This is the philosophical bedrock for everything else in the book. The rich don't work for money.
And this whole lesson starts with this incredible, almost cruel bit of mentorship he gets when he's just 9 years old. He calls it the 10-cent job.
Right. So young Robert goes to Rich Dad and asks him, how do I get rich?
And Rich Dad's answer isn't a lecture. It's an experience. He hires Kiyosaki and his friend Mike to work in one of his convenience stores.
And the pay? It was, 10 cents an hour?
A measly 10 cents an hour. For 3 weeks, they're dusting cans, stocking shelves, just tedious work. And then, after 3 weeks, Rich Dad offers them nothing.
He just takes it away.
Yep. Tells them the job is gone, the pay is revoked.
And Kiyosaki, he was furious. He felt totally used, exploitive.
Of course. He wanted to quit.
Yeah.
But that was the moment Rich Dad was waiting for. That's the whole point of the exercise.
He sat them down and explained he wasn't trying to be cruel. He was trying to teach them that life doesn't always teach you by giving lectures.
Life pushes you around, and each push is life saying, wake up, there's something I want you to learn.
So the lesson wasn't about the low pay. It was about Kiyosaki's reaction to it.
Exactly. He was getting emotional. He was blaming his boss, Rich Dad, when the real goal was to change his own thinking.
And this is where Rich Dad introduces this concept that he calls the rat race, this psychological cycle that he says traps almost everyone.
And it's driven by 2 really basic human emotions, fear and greed.
Okay, let's break that cycle down because it's the engine that keeps so many people, even people making great money, stuck in jobs they don't like. It starts with fear.
That's right. It's the fear of not being able to pay your bills, the fear of the mortgage, the car payment, the fear of getting fired.
And that fear is a powerful motivator. It makes you go out and get a job, work hard.
Then the paycheck comes. And for a moment, that fear goes away. You feel secure, but it's temporary.
Because right behind fear comes the second emotion, greed or, desire.
The desire for nicer things. You get a raise, you think, I deserve a better car, or we need a bigger house.
So you start spending more, you take on more debt to fund this new lifestyle.
And that's when the trap snaps shut. Because now your monthly expenses are higher. The bills come due, and that fear comes roaring back, only this time it's stronger because your obligations are bigger.
Which forces you to work even harder, chase another promotion, another raise.
And the cycle just repeats. At a higher and higher level, you're running faster and faster on the wheel, but you're not actually going anywhere. You're just stuck in the rat race.
So even his own father, the poor dad, who had a really good government salary, he was still deep in the rat race.
Absolutely. He was a very hardworking rat, but still a rat in the maze. Because the only solution he knew was work harder for money.
And that's the core distinction, right? The poor and the middle class work for money. They trade their time for dollars.
But the rich, they have their money work for them. They build systems. They buy assets that generate income, so they're not the ones on the wheel.
So the cure, according to Rich Dad, isn't just about making more money. It's about using the stuff between your ears, your financial education, to change your point of view.
Stop blaming your boss or your low pay or taxes. The real learning happens when you use that passion, that desire, even that anger from feeling exploited in the 10-cent job to find a different path.
And he's really clear that more money by itself actually makes the problem worse for most people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We see it all the time with lottery winners or pro athletes who end up broke. Money just amplifies whatever cash flow pattern is already running in your head.
If your pattern is to spend everything you get.
A bigger paycheck just means you spend it faster and probably go into even bigger debt for bigger liabilities.
So the number one cause of financial struggle isn't the economy. It isn't your salary. It's that internal, self-inflicted fear of losing money combined with ignorance about how the game actually works.
That fear is so powerful that most people just default to playing it safe. And ironically, playing it safe is what guarantees you'll never actually be free.
Okay, so if lesson 1 is the philosophy, let's move into the mechanics. This is part 2, and it starts with lesson 2, financial literacy.
And the summary for this one's just perfect. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep and how hard that money works for you.
This is so critical, and he uses this kind of chilling historical story to drive the point home.
Yeah, the 1923 meeting at the Edgewater Beach Hotel in Chicago.
Right. You had some of the most powerful businessmen in the world gathered there. We're talking Charles Schwab, the head of the steel company.
Samuel Insull, the utilities magnate, the president of the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, these are the titans of their day.
You would think these guys were set for life, financially indestructible.
And yet, within 25 years, almost all of them were either dead broke, had gone insane, or had died in poverty.
Which just illustrates the point perfectly. Yeah. Your income, your professional status.
Yeah.
That stuff doesn't guarantee wealth.
No. Financial intelligence is what solves problems and produces money. Money without that intelligence is, as he says, soon gone.
Which brings us to what he calls rule number 1. And he says if you only learn this one thing from the whole book, you're on your way.
Rule #1. You must know the difference between an asset and a liability and buy assets. That's it.
And his definitions are, they're not what you learn in accounting class. He uses the KISS principle, keep it super simple.
And it's all based on one thing, the direction of cash flow. Nothing else matters for your personal wealth.
So an asset is?
Something that puts money in my pocket.
And a liability is?
Something that takes money out of my pocket.
That's it. It's so simple, but it completely reclassifies the biggest things that most of us spend our money on.
This is why you have to see the cash flow diagrams he draws. They show you exactly why the middle class is always struggling.
Okay, so let's walk through them. For the working poor, it's a pretty brutal picture.
It's tragically simple. Income comes in from a job, and it goes right back out through expenses. Rent, food, taxes. Their balance sheet is basically empty. It's paycheck to paycheck living.
Now, the middle class pattern. This is the one that's so tricky because they think they're doing the right thing.
This is the dangerous one.
Yeah.
They buy liabilities that they have been told are assets.
Their income is higher, sometimes a lot higher.
But their expenses are also huge. Massive taxes, car payments, student loans, credit card debt. And if you look at their balance sheet, that liability column is just overflowing.
While the asset column, the one that's supposed to be generating income for them, is practically empty.
They're in the rat race because their entire financial life is about feeding that giant liability column.
And this is where we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the big one. The idea that your primary home is a liability.
And I know a lot of people hearing that are immediately pushing back. They're thinking, wait, my house appreciates in value. It's a hedge against inflation.
All the conventional wisdom.
Right. And from a market valuation standpoint, that can be true. But Kiyosaki's definition is only about cash flow risk.
And your primary residence, every single month, is taking money out of your pocket.
Constantly. Property taxes, insurance, mortgage interest, repairs, utilities, it just drains cash. And it requires you to have a job, earned income, just to service it.
A bigger, fancier house just means bigger expenses. It digs you deeper into the rat race.
So he's not saying don't buy a house. He's just saying don't confuse your primary residence, which drains your cash and is not liquid, with a true income-generating asset.
Which is what the rich focus on. Their cash flow pattern is the complete opposite.
It's inverted. Their income comes from their asset column rental income, dividends, interest, royalties.
And that passive income from their assets pays for their expenses.
The crucial difference is the order of operations. The rich buy assets first. Then, once those assets are generating enough cash flow to cover everything, then they use that cash flow to buy the luxuries, like a bigger house.
The goal is for that asset income to exceed your expenses. That's financial independence.
Which leads perfectly into lesson 3. Mind your own business.
This is about realizing that your profession, your job, is not your business.
Exactly. Your business should be your asset column.
And you can't talk about this without the famous Ray Kroc McDonald story.
Oh, it's a classic. Kroc is giving a lecture to a bunch of MBA students, and he asks them, what business am I in?
And they all say hamburgers.
Of course. And he laughs and says, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not in the hamburger business. My business is real estate.
Such a huge perspective shift.
Yeah. McDonald's main source of revenue might be selling franchises and food, but their real long-term wealth was built by owning the incredibly valuable land under almost every single one of those franchises.
So they were focused on the asset, not just the product they were selling.
And the takeaway for you, the listener, is just as direct. Keep your day job to pay the bills, but use your extra time and money to fund your true business, your asset column.
And he gives a clear list of what counts as a real asset.
Things like businesses that don't need you to be there, stocks, bonds, income-generating real estate, notes or IOUs, and royalties from intellectual property.
And the number one rule for that asset column.
Once a dollar goes in there, you never let it come out. That dollar is now your employee. It works for you 24/7, making more money that you can use to buy even more assets. It's that relentless focus on building the asset column, not just chasing a bigger paycheck, that makes all the difference.
Okay, moving into part 3, we're shifting from personal finance to the bigger systems the rich use. Lesson 4 gets into the pretty controversial topic of the history of taxes and the power of corporations.
Yeah, and he kicks this chapter off with a really provocative statement. He says Robin Hood was a crook.
Which is, designed to get your attention.
For sure.
Yeah.
His argument is that income taxes were originally sold to the public as a way to punish the rich. The masses voted for it because they thought, great, this will only hit the wealthy.
But the rich don't just sit back and take it. They're financially literate. They understand the law.
So they didn't just accept the new taxes. They found legal ways to outsmart the system. And in the end, the tax burden actually got shifted onto the very people who voted for it, the poor and the middle class.
And their secret weapon in all this was the corporation.
The corporation, which, as Kiyosaki explains it, is really just a legal document. It's a folder in a filing cabinet somewhere. But it gives you 2 massive advantages that a regular employee just doesn't have.
Okay, the first one is tax efficiency. Let's break down that cash flow difference again, because this is huge.
It is. An employee has a very simple and very punishing sequence. First, you earn money from your job.
Then you are immediately taxed on that money at the highest possible rate, ordinary income tax.
And only then do you get to spend whatever is left over.
But a corporation, it flips that whole process on its head.
Completely. The corporation earns the money first, then it spends everything it possibly can on legitimate business expenses.
And we're talking about things like car leases, travel, supplies.
Health club memberships as wellness programs, family vacations structured as board meetings.
Yeah.
It's all about legally expensing as much as possible before taxes are calculated.
And then the corporation is only taxed on what's left over, which is often at a much lower rate.
It's an incredible advantage. The employee is spending after-tax dollars. The rich, through their corporations, are spending pre-tax dollars on things that improve their lifestyle. It's a massive legal loophole.
So that's the first advantage. The second one is protection.
Right. We live in a world where people sue each other all the time. The rich use corporations and trusts to legally separate themselves from their assets.
So if a wealthy person gets sued personally,
The person suing them often discovers that the individual technically controls everything but owns nothing. The assets are shielded inside these legal structures, making them incredibly hard to get to.
whereas the middle class, who proudly own their home and their car in their own name, they're completely exposed. They could lose everything in one bad lawsuit.
That financial and legal IQ lets the rich play a totally different game, and that leads right into Lesson 5. The rich invent money.
This is a big conceptual leap. The idea that wealth isn't just about hard work or even market returns anymore. It's about information, speed, and creating deals.
It's the difference between working for your money and using your mind to create value out of thin air. He uses the story of Alexander Graham Bell and the telephone.
Right. He offered the patent to Western Union for what,
A
$100,000?
mere $100,000.
Yeah.
And Western Union just scoffed at him. They completely missed the opportunity because they couldn't see the value in an information-based, non-physical asset.
And that mistake cost them one of the biggest fortunes in history.
And what Kiyosaki really emphasizes here is that just being smart, having the technical knowledge, isn't enough.
He says real-world success comes down to courage, guts, boldness.
Because fear and self-doubt are what kill most people's financial genius. They see an opportunity, but they're too afraid to act.
So luck and money aren't things you wait for. They're things you actively create.
If you're waiting for the perfect zero-risk opportunity, you'll literally wait forever. The rich find their opportunities in the chaos and uncertainty that scares everyone else away.
Okay, to make this real, we have to walk through the famous example he gives. The one where he basically creates a huge asset with no money down, the story of the foreclosed house.
This is Lesson 5 in action. Perfect example. So he finds a house worth $75,000 that's in foreclosure for just $20,000.
But he doesn't have the money for it.
Right, but he has the knowledge. So he borrows $2,000 from a friend for 90 days, promising to pay him back $2,200. That $2,000 is just the deposit to legally tie up the property.
So he controls the property, but he still needs to close the deal, and he doesn't want to use any of his own capital.
So what does he do? He immediately puts an ad in the paper to sell the house for $60,000 with the magic words, zero money down.
Which would obviously get a ton of attention. An incredible deal for a buyer.
The phone rings off the hook. He finds a qualified buyer, and then, this is the clever part, he charges that buyer a $2,500 processing fee to handle all the paperwork.
Ah, okay, I see it. The buyer is happy to pay that fee because they're getting a $75,000 house for $60,000 with no down payment. It's a no-brainer for them.
Exactly. So Kiyosaki takes that $2,500. He immediately pays back his friend the $2,000 he borrowed, plus the $200 in interest.
So now he's out of the deal completely. No borrowed money, no risk, and he has $300 in his pocket.
But that's not the real win. The real wealth creation is what happens next.
So promissory note.
A $40,000 promissory note. The difference between the $20,000 he bought it for and the $60,000 he sold it for. That $40,000 is created as an IOU from the new homeowner to Kiyosaki's corporation.
And that IOU, that note, goes directly into his asset column, generating passive income for him every single month.
So think about what he did. He created a $40,000 income-producing asset with zero of his own money left in the deal. The return on investment is literally infinite because the investment was zero.
That's not luck. That is pure financial intelligence, legal knowledge, and courage all working together. That's inventing money.
Okay, part 4. This is where the focus really shifts to self-development, to the skills you need. And lesson 6 is a tough one for a lot of highly educated people to swallow. Work to learn, don't work for money. This really highlights the difference between the two dads one last time. For his educated poor dad, it was all about job security and specialization.
Right. He got paid more by becoming more and more focused in his specific academic field.
But rich dad preached the exact opposite. He told Kiyosaki to learn a little bit about a lot of things. Learn some accounting, learn some sales, learn some law. Become a generalist.
Because, as Kiyosaki says, if you want to be wealthy, you can't just chase a specialist's paycheck. You have to acquire a broad range of skills.
He breaks down what he calls financial IQ into 4 main technical areas that all have to work together.
The first one is accounting, or what he just calls financial literacy.
Right. This is simply the ability to read numbers. If you can't understand a balance sheet or an income statement, you're flying blind. You're just trusting what other people tell you.
Second is investing.
The science of money making money. the strategies, the formulas for how you actually deploy capital to get a return.
Third is understanding markets.
This is about supply and demand, but it's also about emotion. Understanding that markets are driven by fear and greed, and knowing how to find a deal when something is unpopular.
And fourth, which we just talked about, is the law.
Using those corporate structures for the tax advantages and the legal protection, he says when you combine those four skills, that's when you can get explosive growth.
But even having those four isn't quite enough. There's a fifth, and he says it's maybe the most important skill of all.
The ability to sell and communicate.
And he tells that great story about the reporter in Singapore with a master's degree in English literature.
Yeah, she was a brilliant writer, technically amazing, but she was broke. And she came to him wanting to be a best-selling author.
And he told her to go take a sales and marketing course.
And she was deeply offended. She saw sales as being, beneath her as a highly educated professional.
And his response was it was brutal, but it was honest.
He said, I have a best-selling author, not a best-writing author. My success comes from the fact that I learned how to market and sell what I write.
He told her she was literally one skill away, the ability to sell her work, from incredible wealth and fame.
It's the McDonald's lesson again. Lots of people can make a better hamburger. McDonald's wins because they have the best systems for selling and delivering that hamburger.
So sales and communication, they are the foundation for everything else.
You have to be able to sell your idea, your product, yourself.
Okay, so let's say you've got the financial literacy, you're working on the skills. Kiyosaki then spends a lot of time on the psychological things that hold people back.
Yeah, he lists 5 major internal obstacles. And the first one is the biggest. It's fear.
The fear of losing money, everyone has it.
Even the rich have it. The difference is how they manage it. Rich Dad's advice was amazing. He said, when Texans win, they win big. And when they lose, it's spectacular.
Which is so counterintuitive. It's like he's saying for real winners, losing isn't something to be avoided. It's an inspiration.
It motivates them. They lose, they analyze what went wrong, and they come back smarter and stronger. Most people play not to lose, so they stick to these safe, balanced portfolios that just guarantee mediocrity.
And this is where he argues against diversification, at least at the beginning.
Yeah, he says, to get truly wealthy, you have to be focused. Put a lot of your eggs in just a few baskets and focus. Follow one course until successful. You need that intensity, that willingness to risk it all.
The second obstacle is cynicism.
This is the Chicken Little mindset. The sky is always falling.
Cynicism is just fear and doubt dressed up as criticism. He says cynics criticize, but winners analyze.
Cynics listen to all the noise, their friends, the news, telling them why something won't work, why the market's about to crash, and that fear just paralyzes them. They never take a step.
And this is where you get that famous objection to real estate investing. But I don't want to fix toilets.
Exactly. The cynic hears rental property, and their mind immediately goes to the worst-case scenario, the broken toilet at 2 a.m.
But Kiyosaki says your I don't wants are the key. He didn't want to fix toilets either, so what did he do?
He analyzed the problem and hired a great property manager. His don't want inspired him to create a system which allowed him to buy more real estate. The cynic just uses it as an excuse to do nothing.
Okay, obstacle number 3, laziness. But it's a specific kind. Laziness by being too busy.
This is the one that gets so many successful professionals. They're constantly busy, working hard, but it's all just to maintain the status quo. It's a distraction.
They're avoiding the hard work of actually building their wealth.
They're too busy to exercise, too busy to manage their money, too busy with family. And the cure, he says, is a little bit of greed.
Which goes against what his poor dad taught him, that greed is evil.
Rich Dad reframed it as the healthy desire for a better life. And he forbade his kids from ever saying the words, I can't afford it.
Instead, you have to ask,
how can I afford it? And that small change in language is everything. I can't. Shut your brain down. It's an admission of defeat.
But how can I? Forces your brain to start working, to find creative solutions. It opens up possibilities.
The process of figuring out how to afford something is often more valuable than the thing itself.
Fourth obstacle is bad habits. And the hardest habit to master, he says, is paying yourself first.
This is a direct attack on the middle-class way of managing money. Most people get their paycheck and immediately pay everyone else. The government, the bank, the credit card companies.
And then they try to save whatever's left over if there's anything at all.
Kiyosaki says do the exact opposite. The very first bill you pay is to your asset column. You allocate money to your investments before you pay your expenses.
But then, What happens when the real bills come due and you're short on cash? That sounds terrifying.
And that's the point. You let the pressure build. You don't dip into your investments. That pressure is what forces your financial genius to kick in and find new ways to make more money to pay those bills.
It's like a workout for your financial muscles.
Exactly. It strengthens your ability to generate income. Poor people have the habit of dipping into their savings whenever they feel financial pressure, which just teaches them to be dependent on their savings, not their own ingenuity.
And the final obstacle is arrogance.
Yeah. Arrogant people don't learn because they think they already know everything. They're too busy defending what they think they know to accept any new information.
A truly intelligent person, he says, welcomes new ideas, even ones they disagree with, because it adds to their overall knowledge.
As Rich Dad said, listening is more important than talking. If that were not true, God would not have given us 2 ears and only 1 mouth.
So after all that, he lays out a pretty clear path to get started.
Yeah, a few simple steps. First, he says you have to find a reason greater than reality. You need a deep emotional reason, a powerful combination of things you want and things you don't want.
Like, I don't want to work my whole life, or I want to be able to travel the world.
Exactly. Without that deep emotional fuel, the road is just too hard. You'll give up.
Then, he says, invest in education first. Your mind is your single most powerful asset.
Read books, go to seminars, listen to audio, and he specifically says to study things you disagree with just to see the other side.
And finally, a big one. Choose your friends carefully.
You really are the average of the people you spend the most time with. He warns you to stop listening to the chicken littles, the friends who are always telling you why an investment won't work or why the sky is falling.
Because smart investors buy when things are unpopular, not when everyone is piling in. And that means you have to be willing to ignore the crowd. So we've covered a ton of ground here, a huge amount of philosophy and strategy from Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
And the core message, the purpose of it all, really comes down to this. Financial struggle isn't caused by the economy or your boss. It's caused by self-inflicted fear and ignorance about how money actually works.
And the entire goal is to learn how to have your money start working hard for you instead of the other way around.
And understanding how money works leads you to this final, really critical framework. It's about the 3 different types of income. Understanding this is key to protecting your wealth long term.
Okay, so first up, you have ordinary earned income.
This is your salary, your wages, your bonus. It's the money you work for every day as an employee. And it is by far the highest taxed form of income.
Then you have portfolio income.
This comes from your paper, assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. It's generally taxed at lower capital gains rates, so it's much more efficient than earned income.
And then number 3, the one the rich love, passive income.
This is mainly from things like income-generating real estate or royalties from intellectual property. And because of all the legal deductions like depreciation and business expenses, this is often the lowest tax income of all. Sometimes it's taxed at or near zero completely legally.
So Rich Dad's ultimate advice was that the real secret to getting wealthy is to convert your earned income into passive or portfolio income as fast as you possibly can.
The government taxes the money you work for the most, and it taxes the money your assets work for the least. It's that simple.
And all of this leads to the bigger picture, the tool he developed later on, the cash flow quadrant. And that quadrant is the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. It really frames where you operate in the world of money.
Yeah, the quadrant has 4 letters, E, S, B, and I.
They stand for employee, self-employed, or small business owner.
B for big business owner, someone who owns a system that runs without them, and I for investor.
And most of us, through our schooling and upbringing, we're trained to live and work on the left side of that quadrant, in the E and S squares.
Where you're trading your time directly for money and the tax laws are structured against you.
So Kiyosaki's final challenge to you is to think about where you are right now and to understand the absolute necessity of moving to the right side of the quadrant, to the B and I side.
That's where you stop being the one doing the work and you start owning the systems and the assets that generate passive and portfolio income. That's the path to true financial freedom.
And it all comes back to that one core message from Rich Dad.
It's what is in your head, your financial intelligence, your courage, your mindset, that ultimately determines what is in your hands. If you want to change your financial future, you first have to change your financial thinking.